Good morning and welcome to your Partner in Success Radio. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and this podcast has been bringing you conversations with authors, entrepreneurs, mentors, and business leaders for 18 years now. And I am honored to be ranked in the top 1.5% of the most popular podcasts worldwide. And our topic today is what failure teaches us that success never does with Tony Rubleski. Now, Tony is an author, speaker, and business strategist with more than 30 years of experience, and he has been helping individuals and organizations navigate growth, change, and adversity. And today we are supported by Ben Gay III. Now, Ben Gay is a speaker, an author, and business advisor with decades of experience helping entrepreneurs and sales professionals strengthen relationships, refine communication, and grow with integrity. Ben was the final mentee of Dr. Napoleon Hill, author of Think and Grow Rich, and he carries forward that legacy with a modern, practical approach to business and sales. He is also a very good friend of mine. He's my mentor, and he's my co-host on our Wednesday podcast, the Closers Inner Circle podcast. He is also the author of The Closers. These are widely regarded as one of the foundational sales books of our time. And his work continues to influence generations of professionals who value trust, consistency, and long-term success over quick wins. Now, back to my guest. Tony is a friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time. I have most of his work on my bookshelves, but his work is rooted in real-world experience. It's shaped by both successes and failure and focused on the practical lessons that emerge over time. And today we're talking about his 10th book. Congratulations, Tony. It's called
Thank you.
Don't Quit, Do It. And that is part of the Mind Capture series, which, by the way, I have most of those books on I call this my command center in this office. I call this my entrepreneurial library. And Tony distills 50 lessons drawn from decades in business and entrepreneurship through honest storytelling about setbacks, mistakes, and rebuilding. He offers insight into persistence, mindset, and how to keep moving forward when circumstances challenge even the most determined professionals. Tony, good morning. Welcome back, and thank you for sending me your book.
Well, good morning. You're very welcome, and good to be here again and listen to this.
You've been on here before, and like I mentioned earlier, we've been friends for years, and I follow you around, and, I've read your books. I've got special shelves, where books that I'm going to constantly go back to, and you're part of those shelves. So this is
Thank
your,
you.
oh, my pleasure. This is your 10th book in the Mind Capture series. But my question, Tony, is what made this the right moment for Don't Quit, Do It?
Well, again, to your audience around the world and to those in the Mind Capture Nation that will hear this is thank you for having me on. I think it's a great question to open up. Simply timing and wanting to get it done, Denise. This took the longest besides book number one in the series when I was just a baby, 24 years ago with the first book. But I said, you know what? Let's look back at the last 20 years of self-employment as a professional speaker and author. Very strange calling. Lots of family members still don't know what the hell I do. They're like, what do you really do? Even though my kids are starting to be at my events and work my actual events. So it's come full circle. But I had a conversation last summer in the desert at an event we do called Life by Design, where I told the circle and the other faculty, by the end of this year, which is the end of 25, I want this book to press. And over Christmas break, just a month and a half, 2 months ago, it was at press on schedule. And I said, this needs to get done. It took almost 3 years, stop, start, stop, start. It's hard to go back, Denise. So for your audience, I mentioned that when you're doing almost a memoir of your life's work up to a certain point, you have to go back and curate in a level that's real and gets uncomfortable, which is entrepreneurship. A lot of your audience is sales professionals, entrepreneurs, leaders. Um, this is not a sugar-coated book. There are several stories in there and lessons that came from very dark moments called adversity and challenge that I put on the table and making sure that, my family was okay with it, my current partner is okay with it, our editorial team and clients wouldn't freak out. Many of them knew bits and pieces, but when you're digging back 20 years, that's the subtitle is 50 lessons from the pages and stages of life from all my different books, writing, and all the speaking and the stages that I've been on, over 1,000 paid gigs. So the audience that's here right now, this is confession time. And I just turned 53 a few months ago, and I wanted to get the book done for a lot of those primary reasons is to not only tell the real story, but say, looking back, what are all those lessons from life and from all the people that I've been around and influenced positively? Also, the people that have maybe set me back or given me adversity, what do I learn from them? And what do I have to learn to become a better human? It's not all on them, Denise. I have to self reflect. So it was very difficult, worth it, excited. It just came out. We're starting a lot of media. We're delighted to have you be one of our first podcast interviews. And we hit the road touring all of this year. So some of your audience, as we post up on social, take a look. We might be coming to a town near you.
I hope you do. I hope you come to New Orleans or, somewhere in Southwest Louisiana. If you do, let me know and I'll broadcast it far and wide. But
Thank you.
this, you're welcome. This book, I mean, I read the prepub and thank you for sharing that because I'm actually mentioned in your book and I circled it. I went, ooh, look at me. And I don't
Mhm.
ever mark up a book. My, childhood librarian would rear up and get me with a ruler. But, well, I say I circled it. I put a sticky on that part and I circled on the sticky. But it's a great book, but I have to tell you, when these books land on my desk, I read them 2.5 to 3 times, and let me explain what that means. What happens is when it gets here, I do the page flip, like, "Ooh, let me go, okay, and I'm gonna stick sticky notes or index cards in it." Then when I know it's getting time to get you on the show, and it's time for me to review the book, Amazon, Goodreads, etcetera, I sit down and I really read it. Then the weekend before you're coming on, I sit down with a stack of books of people I'm going to be talking with soon. And
Mhm.
Sunday I read. I don't budge. I read. People go to church, they have, barbecues. I'm reading. That's just my quiet time. So it's been read. And I have to tell you, Tony, this is my favorite book so far.
Well, thank you. I know you listen to a lot of authors, you interview them, you read lots of books. So, really honored to hear that, Denise. And we've been friends and known each other for years professionally. So, I take that very seriously. And yeah, you just don't know when you put it out there what's going to happen. And the advanced reviews, you saw it. We're all over the place about, wow, we didn't know this too. People need this right now. So we were very fortunate. The timing of the title, and we're good marketers, you know this. I've written a lot of books on marketing and referrals and sales. That's my wheelhouse. But to say, what is the title going to help people with to capture them in a few seconds? And then also, what's these lessons? How do you make it about the reader, Denise? It's not just me, I. That gets boring. I mean, that's very arrogant. But out of these positive and challenging lessons, I want the reader to go, wow, I went through that, I'm going through that, or I might go through that. And also the warning in the pages to not always do the things that, there's a chapter on temptation, there's a chapter on forgiveness. So these life lessons very much intersect for business and personal. And that's why as we hit the road next week to start a brand new talk in a US tour, current fans are gonna be like, wow, we knew some of this. New fans are gonna be like, what is this? And in the age of social media, which you and I have been pioneers at, people want authenticity. So the book brings it to them like a two by four. It's out there from major setbacks to major wins, and what we learn from those are the 50 lessons. And at the end of each chapter, a short, bite-sized nugget or lesson. So we made it really in mind also too, Denise, with the attention span problem, which has been the core of my first three books. We're down to 8 seconds. We are less than a goldfish in a swimming bowl. I'm sorry, that's the Microsoft data. Verify, you can look it up, have AI do it, that we have no attention span. So my writing style has changed from maybe more long format to much more snackable content. And some of the chapters are a couple pages, some are 4 or 5, but it's designed for maximum utility and for the reader, he or she, to drop in when it's relevant for them on their schedule.
Tony, I have to tell you the very first, and when I say I put sticky notes in there, there's different colors. I have green and pink, and they mean different things to me. And in fact, I'm not going to say one of the very first chapter that I bookmarked with my sticky notes was regret management. And I
Mhm.
tell you, I had to sit with that one for a while.
We all have them, and it's people say, "I don't have regrets." Yeah, you do.
Oh
It's
yeah,
how
you
you
do
process.
every
It's
day.
Yes, it's how you process. I know it's not cool. It's not, modern to say you have regrets, but how you process and heal, hopefully, and learn the lesson or plural lessons from them is the key. And I say not to be negative, but we all have trade-offs. If I had to retitle that chapter, it could be trade-offs. And in life, every human listening now, when this releases today or in the future, because of time shifting, you're going to have to make sacrifices, and that's okay. And what I'm concerned with, and it's woven throughout several pages of the new book, is that people want a 10-year solution with a 2 or 3 minute YouTube video, or they expect that a TikTok video will solve the problem. Personal development is a process of developing, just like the words say. And regret management to me is what were the lessons of not only just the highs, the good points, but the setbacks that could have taken me out multiple times. And it was interesting when people said, it, they're like, man, we didn't know you went through all this. And I'm not saying like do as I do, because some of those things could have been avoided. I do have regrets about that, Denise. And there's things that I should have known better. Yeah, that's the chapter on temptation, And I am a former compulsive gambler. I'm an addict, printed, put it all over the internet. I don't care at this point. I'll never run for political office probably, but it's a part of my identity. It's a daily, one day at a time journey. I don't use it for sympathy or for attaboys. I'm what 3,230 days without a bet, approaching 9 years this spring. And I have to maintain every day, one day at a time, that temptation is around that corner. And how do you process to be successful in your daily work or your family or your hobbies when you have that addiction that's sitting at the back door waiting for you to have a breakdown? So, regret management, I know we took it to a couple different angles there, but many of the chapters, as you know, you saw an advanced copy of this, intertwine. And that's life, business and life intertwine.
It does, and like I said, I've read this a couple of different times. When you look back over your 30 plus years, I think it is, in business, what surprised you the most about the lessons that actually stuck? Like, I've got some that I'll look at them and go, "Why didn't I know this at that time?"
Yeah.
I'm not stupid. I'm, fairly high IQ, and I have a wicked sense of humor, so that helps.
Hmm.
But, I look at some of the things that I was tolerating and I wonder, "What the heck?" And there's no logical answer for it, but you just have to avoid doing those things again.
Correct. I think it's a very good point you put out there. And, the gift of longer life on the odometer of mileage called years is that you should gain wisdom and learn patterns. You've interviewed me for a book I wrote called Trailblazers. And
Yep.
that book was based on 100 interviews I did over the last 20 years with successful leaders, men and women from all walks of life. I mean, uber successful people that influence millions a day. And I always look for patterns, Denise. And some of the a couple excerpts from Trailblazers made it into this new book, Don't Quit, Do It, because there was just too much gold from earlier work not to add some of it in and sprinkle it in there. But I look for patterns and say, you know what? If you keep trying to unlock the door with the same key, you're dumb. If you go to a locksmith and you try again, it doesn't work, maybe they did the wrong key. If you go a third time, you bring the locksmith with you to the door that has the experience to open the door. And it just came to me that whole analogy. So the gift of a book, the gift of wisdom and interview that we all partake in. I listen to podcasts, reads lots of books like you do. Is a book is the biggest ripoff of value to the reader if you apply it and it's in your niche. The book's what 25, $30, I don't know. And if you get the audiobook, it's cheaper. And I say to people, you get to pull someone's wisdom of 20, 30, 40 years and for like pennies. And you go in and say, what's an area I'm struggling with that this book can maybe help me with immediately, or I dig through the table of contents, or I'm listening to an audiobook and I'm driving and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, they mention a story, a lesson, and it directly hits your soul. And you go, I'm going through that. That's the gift of wisdom. And to me, I just look back and say, wow, you're at a different level of understanding or frequency, energy, the same thing. At 25, you're totally different than you are at 35. Your energy changes, your knowledge set changes, and hopefully you've had many more positive than negative lessons. But life is going to hit you hard. And then you get to 35, 45, you have a whole new frame of reference. So to go back from a rookie in the speaking industry, 26 years full time as a speaker, getting paid, and then my company's been out No, yesterday was our 22nd year in business. So I look at it and go, all right, we're starting year 22. What did I not know in year 1 to 5 that would have saved me? But now at year 22 in business, as a professional speaker and author, I have accumulated mileage called wisdom. So it's interesting to go back and forth those 50 chapters to not knowing certain things when I started the company to now, 2026, knowing a whole lot more. And big caveat to the audience, knowing that I still have to learn, Denise, constantly. It's not out of fear, it's out of necessity and habit for me. I love to learn. I'm constantly reading books, listening to podcasts, writing my own material, teaching, having people at my own 2 events that I bring speakers in. So the learning lab never stops, no matter what your chronological age is. It's what do you want to share to the world that on the good side and the bad side of life, the two-sided coin, the yin and the yang, they're going to pull value from and go, oh, I needed that, or my son needed that, or hey, I'm a former alcoholic, I needed that. I want to share something really fast here. Came up yesterday with someone I talked to in the media. They said, this book is really well timed for people in recovery. And I'm like, well, okay, I kind of knew that as a compulsive gambler. And they said, no, I mean, therapists should get this book because so many people are in different forms of recovery or stress that this book could give them some ideas. So I'm also listening to the right people that have a vantage and a perspective I can't see, Denise. That's just arrogance to think you know it all. So I know I went a little bit out there around the paradigm here of the question, but I'm hoping someone listening goes, hmm, I'm interested because of that point, or I'm going to that point he's describing.
Tony, you just effectively distilled my 18 years of podcast. You essentially just told me and the audience why I do what I do. So thank you for that.
Awesome. You're welcome.
So you are very honest about experiences like addiction, which we just talked about, divorce and bankruptcy. Why was it important for you to not sanitize those parts of the story? I know why, but share with our audience if you would.
I think the big thing, Denise, is this. If you're going to do, in essence, a memoir that's much more business focused, okay, it's really built 80% business, 20% life. You can't omit certain things. And I think if you do that, it's not real. And I've come to terms the last few years about what I can disclose and how I feel the right time is to do it. 6, 7 years ago, I didn't want to talk about the addiction very much. It was raw, it was real, it was painful. It frankly sucked. You fast forward up till about 2 years ago, October of 24, I did a TEDx talk on the topic, how gambling saved my life. So at that point, the cat's completely out of the bag when it goes over the internet with a TEDx talk. So different levels of degree of comfort, letting the passage of time come in, making sure that my current people in my life, family, friends, associates, partner, major clients know that something's coming, though I don't catch them off guard, because there's stuff about my divorce in there. A little bit about my bankruptcy is mentioned in the beginning 15, 16 years ago, which is now past. And you don't celebrate it, but to omit it to me is not right. And that's a preference for me as the writer. I'm not telling other writers what to do or not to do. I love the freedom of speech. I just love the fact that I can get paid all these years still because people see value to speak and teach. So going into the vault of the pain was essential. And it's probably why it took so damn long to get the book done, Denise, at least in my world. I'm typically 3 to 6 months can get a book done. This one, you're looking back at 20 plus years and saying, all right, let's let the last 10 years, there's been some issues. In the first 10, there was a couple major issues that almost took the company out. We have a divorce with 3 young kids, and in the process of that, you bankrupt at the same time. That is very, very traumatic and not recommended. However, I had wonderful mentors that are mentioned throughout that book. And Ben Gay III, who you mentioned in the beginning here, your sponsor, became a friend about 12 years ago via referral. And these mentors, men and women, have given me the gift of knowledge and privately pulled me aside and said, hey, we went through the same thing you did in different degrees. You'll be okay. Dan Kennedy, Ben Gay III, those mentors in the new book coached me off the ledge at my lowest points. And I give them a lot of credit, and they're noted in the book for that. The others down the path have gone through some heavy duty shit, Denise. And they're not saying, hey, you know what, we're going to condone that and you're okay to do that. No, tough love. So the book has many tough love lessons in it. about the fact when you are climbing to serve, people are going to betray you. You might let them down. It's again a two-sided coin. Some people are going to promote you that you're shocked at, some are going to walk away from you. Certain clients love you for 5 years, then in the sixth year, they won't return a call. That is life, Denise. And the
Mhm.
key thing I'm trying to weave in the book is you can't take a lot of this personal. It's difficult. You know, I joke sometimes live with audience. I feel like my life at times, different chapters of it, have been like a bad country and western song. Like, all my
I've
exes live
heard
in
you say
Texas.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
you've
and
said
I
that
and I'm
to me
not proud of
before.
it. I'm not proud of it, but damn it, I'm gonna look at it and say, not to reframe it or poo-poo it. How did I process it now as humor? There's a couple chapters about laughter and having fun with the book. Damn right. Being a solo entrepreneur with a good team around me, it's not easy. When you have the temptation of clients that say, you want to make six figures guaranteed with life insurance and benefits and health insurance, we can hire you. Nope, I'm going to do it my way, like Frank Sinatra used to sing. It doesn't mean that you're bullheaded, but boy, you've got to be focused on the target that things and situations in your business will change. Some years are years of harvest. Some years you're sort of just maintaining. I call it, sort of the neutral point. And some years are a real tough one. And those tough ones often teach you how to get smarter. They teach you wisdom. They teach you humor. And I look back now with the gift of time, the passage of it, and laugh about things that I thought would destroy me. And it's not laughing about what I did, but lessons of change, how I positively changed from that. I don't want to keep repeating some of these lessons. Now, the successful lessons, you want to, hey, what's the pattern there to continue to do it and then multiply it and scale it? Let me repeat, multiply and scale those lessons. So it's how you look at it. But if people want authenticity on the internet, everyone's saying, be authentic, be authentic. The book brings it at a level I've never thought we would do. However, if something happened, and this would be the final book, I hope not, my children, partner, family, and friends can look back and go, okay, that's a pretty good snapshot at 53 years of age, which I am now, because the book just came out, of what's gone on. And again, I couldn't put all the stories in there. You have to make it about the reader. It's not the Tony brag show. It's how do I help you with lessons that the chapters alone, people go, you go through the table of contents, Tony, I can pick and choose things that are really relevant. So that's by design, Denise. A book is first and first a creative effort. You've interviewed thousands of authors. To me, as a nonfiction writer, the close second has to be about what is the audience going to gain from it. Either they read the book, they listen to it, or they see a live talk that I give on it when I'm on the road. And it has to be about them. And so many writers that listen to your podcast don't get it, and many do. The book has to be about what's in it for the reader or the listener on audio because people are busy. There's thousands of books put out every single day, Denise. And to get what I call mind capture to stand out with an 8 second attention span, you've got to really think from a holistic level, I believe, as a writer. The audience has to get captured right away and go, all right, this is worth opening. It's worth maybe glancing through, and maybe they'll get to page 20. Statistically, publishing circles data supports this. Most readers get to about page 20 and they bail out of a book. We know this. So those first 10, 20 pages got to grip them. Hopefully, you can hold the attention, but if you don't, maybe they got 10 or 20 pages of value. So I'm going on a master class right now for a lot of writers and authors or people are thinking about writing a book. I get 5 to 10 inquiries a week. I want to write a book. I want to write a book. So I'm hopefully speaking to that segment of your audience worldwide that think as a marketer, get the story out there, get really good people around you to help curate, edit it down, and then really put on the marketing lens and say, all right, which audience or audiences need to hear this message that we can best resonate or connect with. So
Exactly.
that's around the world right there. But I think it's imperative that when you're doing a memoir like this book is, it's not for the faint of heart, but this is book 10, 21 years later. So I have some wisdom to be able to do it, but like I said, it was the longest to create and actually get to press.
How painful was it? Did you have moments where you recognized that there was a particular setback that at the time was just you felt like it was final, but later became a turning point? Or were there parts where you kinda laughed, cried, and sniffled a bit? Because 'Cause I'm writing a book right now with Ben Gay the third, and I'm doing
Awesome.
a lot of weeping. I really but I'm getting better at it, and I'm enjoying it. When I first started, I was like, "Oh my god." But as I started going further and further into it, now I'm like, "Ooh, I need to get this done." But
Yep.
was there a particular time where you said, "I just can't keep doing this"?
Several times I had the devil known as doubt literally in my mind pop up on my shoulder saying, "You've got other things to do." We published two other books during the interim of writing this manuscript. So I got distracted with other quicker writing projects, and I wanted to have this done by the age of 50. So at 53, it comes out. So you can see the progression. I had two very, in my mind, logical reasons to procrastinate. A couple of major life issues popped up. 2024, in particular, was a very interesting year. And I look back and go, wow, there was about 6 to 8 months with personal issues and business issues. I thought, man, I got to just focus on getting through my personal stuff. And that took a good 6 to 8 months. And then, really, the motivation, the flame under my butt was late 2024. So I was about 80% of the manuscript done. I said, you've got to get this done by really at some point next year. Fast forward to May of 2025, we're in the desert in Sedona at one of my events, Life by Design, as I mentioned in the beginning of the interview. And I said in the circle for public accountability, this book has to go to edit and press by the end of 2025. So I had to play some mental games as an advanced writer that life is never going to slow down for anyone, Denise. And what we do is we justify and we play trade-off game. Every human does it every day. It's called life. At some point, unless you put accountability, I believe, a deadline, and you say, you know what, act as if, what if you die by the end of the year? I said in Sedona, I want to act as if not, I want to pass away on December 31st, 2025. But if I pass away, heaven forbid the book never got done. So I had to play a series of mind games to push it over the final frontier to get it done by the end of 2025, which was recently to get to press. So hopefully there's some value for your audience at whatever level or stage of growth they're in. If they feel stuck or they're really struggling, that you're not alone. And I also want to dispel the myth in the book through several of the lessons that it's not easy. However, if you have good coaches, those could be books, podcast, audiobooks. You hire a coach, you hire a mastermind team, you go get mentored by someone. That is easy to find now more than ever the last 20 years. So to me, if people really want something, if you ask the right questions, you put the time in and you focus and not let the first delay, the 15th delay stop you, you can usually hit a golden ace. But it is not easy. It's
No,
not a
it's
YouTube or a
not.
TikTok video. And people think,
Right.
I watched a 3-minute TikTok video and damn it, I can do that business. Well, that's the entry point. You're seeing the end product. You usually have 7 years of an entrepreneur on TikTok. Or if they're an influencer, yeah, maybe they built up 3 to 4 years of an audience. But it didn't happen in 3 to 4 minutes. It took years. And I also hammer home in the book sustained success. What does that look like? Yesterday we started year 22 of the company. There's been some years we've been just raking up success, success, success. Some years are like, damn, what happened? And it's getting the momentum or that upward trend line. When you get momentum going, you keep it sustained with an upward progression that you're not stalled out 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So, very good question. And I appreciate you doing your homework every time we come on here.
Thank you. You know what? When I got the PDF, before the book went to publication, I was worried about my own focus, really worried about it. In fact, I still am focusing on focus. I hate to say it's my, word of the year, but it is. And when I went through that manuscript, I kept, for some reason, honing in and it would just jump out. Focus. You use that word a lot in this book. And I went, I think he's reading my mind. So that's kind of scary, but it's a word that we all need to pay attention to because, like you say, we're goldfish. I mean, we don't have much time. Things kind of excuse me, jump at us. Oh, well, we'll go back to that later. Focus.
It is the gift that is the hardest to harness. You know, I am not perfect and I get distracted easy. I have every alibi you can think of to be on my phone, my laptop. Hey, it's the team. We've got to post on social with our team. I've got to manage. I got to look at an email. And now with our phone, which is sitting right next to me as we do this interview on my laptop, I try not to look at my phone. And it's something that is a perpetual challenge. And typically there's seasons where we focus, and every human has this ability to focus. I might have a little ADHD. I know a lot of family and friends that have it, and they're very successful with it. It's how you frame that unique skill set of having high energy and the ability to multitask. And it's some people say, well, ADHD is bad. Well, I know very successful entrepreneurs and people in my life that have ADHD that have learned to live with it. My best friend has it, and he jokes about it in some of his speeches. So to me, it's not a bad thing. It's what will you do in spite of the fact that you have a challenge of, in this example, focus. And several chapters again intersect the chapter about deadlines. And to me, when I'm coaching people or clients or CEOs, it's bite-sized goals that you can focus on, that you can knock off and achieve and get some momentum in play. Someone says, hey, I want to write a book in 3 months. I say, well, let's start with page one. Let's focus on, in one page done. And John Grisham, the great fiction writer who sold, gosh, hundreds of millions of books, one of my favorite quotes from him of all time is, until you write one page a day, nothing will happen. Getting one page a day done is essential. And I paraphrased a little bit of that, but for years I carried a picture around of him saying that because Grisham is beyond prolific. And if you have one of the most prolific writers of modern times giving you coaching, you should listen to it. Same with Stephen King, um, phenomenal fiction horror writer. His book called On Writing, I've read it so many times, it's dog-eared. So I'm trying to learn from the greats like the Stephen King. Not that I write like that. I am damn in no way a Hemingway. I write the way I talk. Okay. So I have to know my strength as a writer and not try to be someone else. However, I can learn from the masters. How do they crank out prolific amounts of books? There's a lesson from these that have been down the path. On that point, Dan Kennedy, mentioned several times, my marketing mentor of 30 years, has said if you want to be successful in a trade, particularly marketing, you follow the car. What that means is you want to get good on Facebook or LinkedIn marketing, you go to a coach, he or she that's already farther down the road, and you study with them if you can, or you buy their courses and you do what they're telling you because they're already way down the road. So focus, it's the eternal opportunity. It's also the eternal battle. And my
It
concern
is. I have a
is
squirrel brain. I don't call it
I'll get a little,
I don't call it ADHD, but squirrel brain.
yeah, and we all have it in the way our modality of going to digital the last 25 years, particularly with mobile devices. It's really challenging. When I did my TEDx talk about gambling, we had a lot of what we called phoners in the circle. Phoners are those that are addicted to gambling off their phone. I luckily, if anything, wasn't addicted to gambling on my phone because it just started to become more legal the last few years. So now you have the distraction of social media, retargeting, short attention span, and all the addictions and vices on your phone. We're almost conditioned that if you put your phone down for a day or two, there's something wrong with you. So focus. Uh, I teach a lot of CEOs and people in books now, obviously, and in large groups, some ideas that work if you work them. And it doesn't mean you have to become a focus king, but let's go back to writing because you have a lot of writers in your audience. One page at a time. You go back a few minutes in the interview, you asked about there's times I wanted to quit writing. I was like, man, I got 37 of the lessons done. I made 50 lessons. Why don't you make it 25 lessons? You can get the book. I was starting to bargain. I was bargaining in my head, like, I can get done quicker. I'm like, no, 50 lessons. You have enough wisdom there. It's going to be painful, but you have plenty to do 100 lessons. Arrive at 50, work backward, get one lesson done at a time. And like I said, the book was written very choppy. Some chapters were real quick and easy. Some were like, yeah, got to go back to that. Eventually, till you set a deadline and focus, nothing happens. If the world had no deadlines, nothing would get done, Denise. We just keep drifting around. Yeah, I'll show up at work when I want. Yeah, I'll write that book in the next 30 years because I don't have to worry about it. So to me, deadlines and focus, there's your key clue. Set deadlines and use different ways like I just described to you, sometimes public, sometimes private accountability, whatever you got to do to get that little doubt out of your head and kick it to the curb and say enough. That to me is how you get things done.
I can't argue with you on that. I mean, you know, I don't know if this is a female thing, but we multitask. Don't
Correct.
multitask. I'm telling you right now, stop doing that. It's detrimental to your health. It's detrimental how you operate. Don't do it. Pick a spot. What I do is I use index cards, and I will
Hmm.
put three index cards. These are the three major things I'm going to do today. And until the last one goes in the shredder, I don't stop. But I also don't
Right.
let myself get distracted.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Because I've used index cards over the time, but that's a great way of really chunking it down, where you're doing micro goals, little goals that
Exactly.
each day, and whatever you've got to do, whoever's listening, is to get it done. And let's go back to the time of the book. Don't quit. Second part, do it. It's taking action. I've sat in many therapist chairs and in recovery circles the last decade, and I can tell you what a lot of therapists won't. If you want to get out of your head, couple ways to do it. Take action, remove yourself from your negative spiral. It's called rumination, and start taking action. Maybe you get up if you're having a bad day and you put on music. I have an entire chapter in the book about pattern interrupts. I learned that from Tony Robbins as a puppy 30 years ago. And pattern interrupts are ways when your mind's going down a dark place, you say, uh-oh, I can't have an hour or two of this, or a day or two, or 3 days of this, because it takes you longer to reset, to get your momentum back. So there's some days I'm like, all right, I got to throw on music, or I lose a deal. I lose a lot of deals initially as a speaker. It's competitive. It's like being a realtor. And sometimes I get 3 emails. Nope, we didn't pick you this year. Nope, we didn't go with you. Nope, we don't have time to get you in as a guest. And some days I'm like, all right, if you ruminate and you overthink this and you take it personal, the next email, the next phone call is not going to be good because you're stuck in that energy pattern. So I might put on music. I might get up and take a walk. I go to the gym. I call a friend. I go on social media and post something. I look at letters or pictures on my office to remind me that, hey, you've been successful before. This is not the end. Your mind's trying to trick you because it's panicking. It's in a fight or flight state. Until you regroup and reground yourself, you're going to be stuck in that pattern. So
You
I'm
know,
really glad you talked about this.
and thank you. My grandmother used to say she was a very wise woman. I don't think she knew anything about leadership or, how we think or she had never heard of Earl Nightingale, but she used to say you are what you think, you are what you drink, and you are what you eat. Thank you, Grandma.
Wow. Now that I hope you put that in your book or a future book. That is
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
classic wisdom. Classic.
Wasn't it? She was a farmer's wife, and people used to think she was pretty simple, but she was, in my opinion, one of the wisest people I had ever come across. She
Wow.
wasn't simple, she was just quiet.
Well, and we all have different communication styles. And there's so much wisdom. I mean, there's a book called The Farmer's Almanac. Okay. So if she was raised on a farm, there's certain things that today are super common sense, but we're so distracted and noisy in our heads. Sometimes the obvious looks really complex. Or our mind, which I talk a lot
Exactly.
about positivity, our mind likes to create bigger problems for fun and games. If we don't
Yeah,
have a drama of the day or a gossip something to talk about, a lot of people are unhappy. So I'm really also in the book trying to argue, watch what you put in your mind. Like your grandmother said, a lot of those pieces are interwoven. Okay, there's parallels. It's called wisdom. And watch the words you speak. If you're speaking or thinking in your head negative thoughts, I've said for years, and it's one of my more requested memes that meeting planners say, look, let the voice in your head be your biggest ally, not your biggest critic. It's called self-talk. We have 60 to 70,000 conversations on average in our head each day in North America. Most of it's negative. It's habitual. Nothing wrong with the habitual part. But if you're constantly, well, I don't know if I can do that. Maybe I won't make the call. I don't have time to write that book. I'm cueing, those are things called doubt in your head. Every human has it. If you can
and you're
harness
reinforcing
to
it.
yeah, if you can do your best to mute it, block it, take action over it, override it with a pattern interrupt or taking action specifically, many times you can calm that little voice known as doubt. And by action, what's the term? Action speaks louder than words.
Exactly. Napoleon Hill,
Patterns.
take action. When you're talking
Absolutely.
about pattern interrupt, I will catch myself because we have these, they're like deep roads in your brain. And I think they've proven in the brain that There's some patterns in there that you can erase them or you could pave over them. But I will catch myself thinking something really stupid and it doesn't make a lick of sense to me. And I'll stop myself and I'll say out loud what I was just saying in my head. And then I will stand up, literally, I will stand up and I will do what we call a pishne. Do you know what a pishne is?
No, tell me more.
Remember, we always have that idiot uncle that comes to the family reunions and he'll walk up behind you and take his finger and his thumb and snap the back of your ear. That's a
Oh yeah,
pishne.
yeah.
I'll pishne my
Okay.
own ear just to make it stop. It works.
Wow. Thank you for that.
Don't do it to anybody else, though. You might get slugged. Do it to yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, you might end up on social media as someone would, completely upset about something you did.
It's exactly right. But Tony, and I love this book, and there's a question I wrote on one of the index cards. How do you help people reframe failure or perceived failure while they're still in the middle of it? How do you help them go, maybe you need a pishne?
There's no easy answer because that's a really good question. And in our microwave TikTok world of 8-second attention span, people are like, well, if I can't solve it today, there's something wrong, or we defer it down the road. We kick that problem down the line. But my simplest thing is there's a series of things you can do, or I have a checkoffs. So the chapter on pattern interrupts, I list several of them in there. I've even thought, boy, I could teach this, and I've done it, certain components of that. So the book has elements where things I teach at very high level to CEOs, or when we do like our desert event in Sedona, where I can drill down on that specific area because it's so important. And to me, going through your checkoffs, if you know you're cycling, like something's off, okay, I'm not right here. You know what? I've been thinking negative, or they call it stinking thinking, like Zig Ziglar used to say, the late great Saint Zig, is that when you're on that pattern, you can catch it. You say, you know what? I got to have enough discernment to step back and go, something's off. And I can choose to be negative and grumpy and waste a lot of time and have my own private pity party or public pity party now on social media. A lot of people like to go on social media, and I call it sometimes not Facebook, bitch book. Or I should change Instagram to Ventagram. People want to go online and vent, and it's acceptable. And it's the game sometimes on social media. How negative can you be? And I want to beat your story. I'm going to say, "Oh, I don't like the weather either. I live in the Midwest. Wintertime, as we tape this, sucks. But I know what I signed up for. I can complain about it online all day. I can talk about it to everybody I'm on the phone or I meet that day. Or I can say, you know what? This is part of living in the Midwest. Deal with it." And it's almost like a sport of how negative or how much aw sympathy can you get online now. And watch out for that because it's very subtle. It's seductive. It's sexy. And in the book, I talk a lot about that, that we can get looped into comfort social media. Where it's not as bad. They're going through the same thing. But at some point, Denise, or anyone listening around the world, you got to step up and say, is this serving me? Or is it making me static? Or is it setting me back? Because I'm stuck in my own little pity party. And I know because I have had years where I did it many times subconsciously, didn't know any better. And then years I'm like, you know better than to keep telling that stupid story, Tony. You want a different outcome, change the story you tell yourself. Change the actions. Change the people you hang around with. Change the action you take. It's not a simple recipe in an 8-second world. The book, I tell you the gift I get, I've never said this because we're just starting to do the media. I can look back and go, damn, this is how I got a lot of things done. This is how we've been successful more than we've been not successful. Here are the things to avoid. Here are things to focus on more. And now the gift of wisdom, go out and teach it. That's where we hit the road next week. We go on 2026. It's not a month or two media tour. It's take it to the streets. We're going on the tour all year long. People are like, okay, this is time. There's 50 lessons I can teach in. Certain groups or clients are going to want to request certain topic areas. Some are going to say, look, you free flow what you think is relevant for right now in the world. We're in. Let's be candid, Denise. It's a shit show out there, Denise. In some of the media interviews I've done, particularly radio, they'd be like, how do you avoid politics and religion? By choice. Doesn't mean I
Mhm.
have an opinion. Doesn't
Right.
mean I don't talk about it or think about it. But since I started the company, I'll go right back to Dan Kennedy again. Dan said, if you want to alienate half your audience, you want to help and teach, start talking politics and religion. So I'm grateful, grateful, grateful to the third power. I made an executive decision in my early 30s. I'm 53 years old now, to not bring that in if I could to my writing and my teaching. If you have an opinion, that's for your private circle, your family and friends if you want to talk about it. But there again, I'll caution you, if you don't watch that, the world we're in now, families are breaking up over this. Marriages are breaking up. Relationships are breaking up over politics and religion. It's hard because I am very opinionated, Denise, but I know
Oh,
when to
me
be
too.
quiet and private, to be
I call
private
Yes, and I
about that.
call that what you're talking about is the Thanksgiving dinner rule. No religion, no anything, you just talk about the weather. You don't talk about anything else.
Yeah. And it's brilliant. And it doesn't mean I'm telling, hey, don't bring it up around me. I'm the master of pivoting out of it because I don't want to waste my time or my energy. Anyone around the world right now, when you hear this, energy management, there's a couple chapters in the book about energy management and one called Health Matters. Your health, mentally, what you're hearing, what you're saying, your spiritual health, how you look at legacy, how you look at what's the meaning of life, and your physical health is your how can you move energetically with your physical body, your vessel. If you can start to dial in those three and work on them every day, you're much more productive and typically a positive human. If one or two of those areas is completely off, eventually the piper will come due, the bill will be paid. You're going to have to own up. If one of those three or two of those three or all three of those are off, typically it's not difficult. Your life will not be as successful. You won't have the energy to carry it out. You won't have the positivity or the forward thinking momentum to do it. And your spiritual soul will be like, why am I doing it? That's where temptation and sloth, the seven deadly sins, will capture you. I speak from experience. And again, I am not Saint Tony. This book has some people I'm probably thinking, I didn't know he was that much of an idiot. Some people are going to read and go, I
No.
can't believe he screwed up like this. And you know what? Here's the good news. Don't care anymore. I care about my clients, my family, my friends, the audience to a degree, heavy degree. But I have to learn not to do certain things again and to daily not do that to let people down. The best success I can have is to learn and get distance, to not do those behaviors anymore, and to get help when I need it, and to not gloat about success. I've been knocked down so many times. I have one of my clients, she's in banking. Her name is Gwen Harnish. Shameless shout out, Gwen. She goes, hey, it's Mr. Persistence. She goes, I've never met someone in my entire career in marketing that's more persistent than you. I'm like, well, thank you. So I can look at that as a positive or a negative. She goes, no, you keep coming back. I said, I'm like a cockroach. I won't die. Let's keep coming back, you know?
You can't even microwave me, I'm still here.
Yeah, and again, I'm getting in my 50s now, so I'm very aware of mortality. There's chapters in the book about how do you deal with mortality. What drivers do I want to have to keep me inspired the next 10, 15 years? I don't want to ever fully retire. I love writing and teaching. It's a gift. That's what God, the creator, put me here for in my faith walk is to teach. And now that I've got rid of some of my vices, I'm like, what are you going to do with that time? Your kids are all grown. Who do you want to impact? What type of income, what type of lifestyle do you want to co-create with them? Now those are more of legacy issues in my 50s. Because again, if you don't design your life, the world will cleanly and easily design it for you. And many times you're not going to like how they design it for you because it's typically you're either fitting to someone's plans or people are fitting in your plans. That's a very common cliche in our industry of personal development, but it's very, very real.
Tony, I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
Oh, are you still there? I heard feedback
I'm
there.
here. I'm
Okay.
here.
What is a small practical habit someone can adopt right now to build resilience over time? And I'll tell you what mine is. And I talk to
Please do.
myself out loud a lot. I mean, why not? Somebody's listening to me. It could be the spiders in the ceiling fan. It could be God. It could be my subconscious. Somebody's listening. So I speak it out loud. But what I do, excuse me, every day, sometimes multiple times a day, is I will ask myself out loud, Denise, what are you tolerating? That's a big
Mm,
question. And it'll scare the
yeah. Yeah.
bejeebers out of you until you get comfortable with answering it.
Thank you for sharing that. And because I've picked up a couple nuggets from you, like I always do, my friend. So it's fun when you have a reciprocal interview where I'm gaining as well. So thank you. Two things come to mind. Chapter on self-talk. And I go into the interview that I did with the Chicken Soup for the Soul guys many years ago. I also talk about Michael Singer. There's a couple books I carry often with me. One is called The Untethered Soul, which is one of his classic works. And a lot of that book is about letting go of the mind. Very Eastern. He's very much into transcendental meditation, very much Buddhist, even though he's Jewish by upbringing. But I find it interesting that the more you can calm your mind down and let go of the self-talk, the more you become aware of how much noise you have in your head. That's the first kind of tip I want to share. Secondly, is what are you doing to affirm? There's a chapter on affirmations, and I share some of my own affirmations. I'll give you a few for the audience. Um, I am grateful for health, energy, and wealth each day. I am forgiving others as I forgive myself each day. And those are a couple of affirmations that sometimes I repeat when I'm driving, when I'm at the gym, when I'm in an airport, in between calls. And let that time remind me I'm programming subconsciously, not always writing it down. I do gratitude list every day. There's another little clue. Every day, write down your gratitude list.
I
Some
have a
people
journal
do that.
exactly for that.
Yeah, if it's in the shower. My partner Sheila does her gratitude list. She told me in the shower. Okay, whatever you got to do to self, no coach can give you self talk 24/7. At some point, personal responsibility. I know, 2 tough words today, and where people are like, "It's not my fault." Well, it's someone else's fault. It's my ex-wife, it's my former business partner, it's my damn kids, it's my mother, it's my dad, I got daddy issues. Welcome to Freud and Carl Jung. Everyone's got mom and dad issues, but many of those issues are good. What did your parents teach you about life that's good? What caution do they tell you how you don't wanna be like them? Same thing my kids do to me. My kids are all in their 20s. I've embarrassed my kids many times, sometimes intentionally, have them remember their dad. Some of it didn't mean to hurt them, but they're gonna pick and choose like I did with my parents. My parents did the best they could at the time they were in society. So a lot of people never get over their kid issues. Thousands of hours every minute of every day are spent therapist chairs, online and offline, dealing with shit you should have dealt with it maybe in your 30s or 40s. I don't like my dad. Most people take their parental issues to the grave from their parents. They never process that. And that does mess up your psyche unless you address it. Carl Jung called it the shadow. The shadow's the darkness in all of us. I mentioned some of Carl Jung quotes in there. I like to look and see, what personal development is not just rah rah on a stage. It's what's your upbringing? What was your schooling? What's your partner like? What are your past partners like? What was your home of your structure of your home life, your familial structure, your matriarch lines? So to me, the more you can clean that up and deal with it and process and move on from it and learn the lessons, the better chance of self-help's gonna stick. There's no one separate island. When you look at them and say, these all work in tandem, what's the synergy here of how I have to clean things up and reprogram? So affirmations, gratitude, look at your goals every day in your phone. Hey, instead of an hour on social media, maybe take a half hour and you say, no, I'm going to look at my goals, my affirmations, my gratitude list, and maybe a half hour social media. You decide each day that gift called time. How are you going to use the time? So there's chapters there about time management as well.
And you said something just really important about parents, and I wrote this down many, many years ago because we all, as you said, we all have parent issues, whether they're real or not. And I figured out my brother had a double lung transplant. He died a couple of years ago, and before he passed away, he had 8 years. So, he went into the hospital not expecting to come out. So he did have 8 extra years, but towards the very end of his life, we got to talking about our childhood and we saw every single instance so differently. We might have been standing
Hmm.
next to each other. We didn't see it that way. And at that time, I remember writing down, and this might be a little bit idiotic, but I wrote down, babies are not born as parents. And that
Wow.
anchored me.
True.
So they didn't know
Yep.
what the heck they were doing,
No.
but they didn't do
Well,
any of it with malice. So there you have it.
well, and thank you for that, because that's deep. That's real. Every person listening can relate to that, whatever age they are chronologically. And let me add into that real quick. Um, they did the best they could. And it doesn't mean that if someone abused you and beat you or put you in a cult, you're like, hey, I forgave him for all that. That's up to you, the listener. However, there is no blueprint for being a parent. And one of the toughest jobs in the world to me is being a parent. It's the most rewarding, but at times it's also the biggest headache many times. And you always hear the parents that say, I would do anything for them. You pretty much would to a degree. I would pay anything. Yeah, most of the time you would. If someone said, hey, take all your accolades, you start over if to save your child's life, take it all away. to save one of my kids, I will start from zero. Any parent deep down in their dark nights of the soul, and even when their kids are accomplishing, it's the biggest blessing on the planet is to have a child. It doesn't mean that because someone doesn't have children that they're bad either, but we're always a part of parenting, whether we have children or we are a product of our parents. The parental hierarchical structure or familial is always in play. And the book does hit on that. I'm like, if you're going to put a memoir out there of business and life, you got to thank people. You got to talk about your upbringing. There's several chapters about my growing up in the 70s as the youngest of nine. I loved it. I got the coolest upbringing because I was like a latchkey kid in the 70s with eight other siblings. I learned a lot from all my siblings. So I think look at it and go, what lessons do I want to learn to serve me and to inspire me? Share something real quick too. Big driver. It's in the book as well. My dad died when I was 11 years old. That rattled me, but I didn't know any better. I said, you know what? Life is a gift. Get after it. And one of the chapters about the power of lists. There's four people that died between the ages of 10 and 23 in my life that really impacted me to go after life with gusto, to attack it with energy and have fun with life and know I'm gonna screw it a few times. But that's also to honor those four people in my life that I name in the book, besides my father, that inspired me to get after it. Don't you dare molt. You're still alive, you're in the game. Go out there and kick some ass and have fun doing it.
I love that. And listen, I've had a lot of death experiences in my family as well. I came from a family of very loud, a lot of kids, loud,
Mhm.
raucous extroverts. I was an introvert hiding in the backyard with books all the time. I
Smart.
said, no talking, no talk. God, go away. Please go
Yep.
away. But looking back at that, because I've lost a stepbrother, he was actually shot by a neighbor accidentally when he was 13. I've lost both of my brothers. I've lost a sister. We're all way too young to be dying, but it happened. And as I get older and I realize those losses, I'm a lot closer with my remaining sister than we ever, either of us thought we would be.
Cool. Very
I
cool.
know. And I'm very grateful for that.
Awesome.
But the
Wow.
title, I know, now I'm going to start crying. The title, Don't Quit, Do It, sounds simple. It really does. But living it really isn't. So, my question, Tony, is what does persistence really look like when your motivation is gone or just temporarily on vacation? What can you do to say, I'm still here? And maybe you just kind of answered it. I'm still here.
I think there's several things that I definitely know the last 8 years and change being in Gamblers Anonymous, GA, we call it, is that there are plenty of resources out there if you're willing to ask for the help. If you're willing to say, you know what, I can have a pity party for days, weeks, hours, months, however you define it, or I can say, you know what, someone else has been through this. They've successfully managed it and they're living more in a way I want to be. And you can find them. But anyone listening to the world, you have to decide at what point you say, I'm tired of being sick and tired and today's the day. Jim Rohn called it. One of my mentors amongst millions of people he coached before he passed away, including Tony Robbins, would say it's the day that turns your life around. Where you say, you know what? I'll be damned if I'm going to quit today. Or you know what? I have enough motivation, however you define it, listening to this interview, that today is the day we change this ship. We chart a new course. We start to make gradual changes like the ship. Imagine that the captain of the ship has that spinning wheel. Okay. That ship doesn't turn immediately, Denise. It moves in small degrees. And that's where change happens. You've given me the idea right now with that statement about a book. Success is gradual change. It's the little changes each day in course of action, mindset, and movement, same thing as action. But what are you doing to get out of your head and get into living, to making a small incremental change that when you start to stack them one by one, it goes back to John Grisham. How do you write a book successfully? One page at a time. And again, struggle. I haven't even had a chance to really go through the book that much because it was a struggle to get it done for me under my deadlines because I usually write faster. When we go in the studio in a couple weeks to do the audiobook, then it's going to probably hit me to read it out loud that, wow, look at this journey called life. It's been fascinating. I'm grateful. And it goes so fast, Denise. that I'm like, okay, there's an urgency. I think every decade you go, what happened in the last 10 years that we don't want to have happen? And what do we want more of? And what are some new things we want to try? So there's some questions to ask right there.
Exactly. And when that audiobook is ready, Audible, I guess, let me know and I'll make sure that our audience hears about it and where to go find it. But
For sure.
what I'm taking from your book is, and I had to learn this painfully on my own because I wasn't keeping track of what I was doing. I wasn't charting the wins or the days where I literally I'll try to have a pity party. Sometimes it's deliberate. It's like, I'm in a bad mood. I'm going to stomp my
You're
feet.
human. You're human.
Yeah, but I'm also an idiot. So I will start having my little, you know, I will start having my little pity party in about 20 minutes in. I'm laughing because I'm such a moron, as Reba McEntire would say, moron. And then I'm laughing at myself and I feel better. But I wasn't keeping track. And once I realized that I had lost so many great memories, so many, what the heck were you thinking moments? I wish I had started a book like you have, but I'm doing deliberately a better job of journaling it.
Well, thank you for that. Let me throw this out. We'll put my friend. Um, do what isn't Denise's soul. Don't, because you see a book, that's the what is the thief of joy is comparison. And I'm honored you said that, so I took it as a compliment. Also, is be Denise. You have skills and talents that only Denise has that she can write about and share. Conversely, I have the book is a lot of my own life lessons and other mentors that I'm borrowing from and giving credit, and some I maybe forgot about, not because I intentionally did, but I had so many good people around me. I'm not afraid to ask. And I want to throw this out as a key part as we end this, wrap the interview here soon, is that asking. Something when I hit the road on the book tour next week in Arizona in front of a couple of good sized groups in Yuma and Sedona. I'm going to say right out of the gate, make this the year, right out of the book. You ask for more from life. Why not? There's another part about childlike curiosity. I talk about my son. We all had this little 7-year-old that got buried and suppressed most of the time. And that little 7-year-old's creativity. It's the spark of awe. It's the ability to not ask with fear. And children are the best at asking questions because their paradigm hasn't been crushed by life typically, that they still have that
Or
genius of
school.
newness.
Yeah, school can ruin
Oh
more kids
God,
than
or
anything else in the
politics, or an
world.
ex-wife.
I
Oh, an
know.
ex-wife, a teacher, a sibling that made him mad, a former partner that screwed him over. Life hasn't ground them down. And let me be very clear as I say this and this as we're wrapping. Don't let life grind you down. Have more fun with it. It's a short trip, Denise. My kids are all in their 20s. I'm like, what happened to that? I
I
still
know.
see them as little 7-year-olds sometimes.
And
So I
3-year-olds,
encourage
try
you.
bargaining with a
Oh,
3-year-old. Our
they're going to
salespeople,
beat you. They're
that
going to kick
every
your
time,
butt every time. Every
every time.
time. So the message is of genuine, direct optimism when I hit the road. I'm a little kid up there sometimes teaching. My corporate clients like, you are kind of a little kid. I'm like, yeah, the 7-year-old's not going to die. And I have to have fun teaching the way I teach. Otherwise, I'm done. Because if I'm not having fun being gone from my family, my partner, or my team on the road, then the audience, that's I'm holding punches. They're like, man, you're interesting to listen to. I get a lot of feedback. You're fun. That's who I am now. It doesn't mean that I'm not an adult. I also don't have to longer much explain my actions. Doesn't mean I'm arrogant or hubris. The book will give you why I am who I am. Good and bad, funny and quirky, serious Tony and focused Tony with the rock and roller Tony, the meditative Tony, the hiker Tony. There's different personalities in this book. Good.
I can
That's a
see
well-lived
that.
life.
Yeah, I saw that. And that we are running out of time. Who did you write this book for? Or let me edit that in my head. Who do you most hope sees themselves in it? Because I saw a lot of myself in many of your chapters.
That is a good question. My first answer is my children, my current partner, and my team that work with me every day. That they go, that's him. That's really him. And it's not a perfect curated Instagram filtered Tony. It is you get it good and bad. And you get the changed Tony. You get the contemplative version of me. People say, well, you shouldn't have a mask, always be authentic. That's a lie. I'm going to challenge any author on that, not because I'm trying to be difficult. We all have different masks. I can't go to Arizona next week and put on a rock and roll shirt and show up with shades on stage and be like, hey guys, I'm here to talk about my life. The audience will be like, what? I have to look the part that best matches them to learn in the way I want to share my knowledge with them. We all have different masks. The private Tony is very different than the public Tony. Same with anyone listening. And the problem is, everyone's you got to have this perfect Instagram, Facebook profile. Your LinkedIn has to look perfectly curated to a degree. But when you hire me or read my book or you see me speak or teach live, you're going to get many dimensions of me. There's two that stay private. Let's tie down the interview. Politics and my religion. Some of you have a
Right.
clue, but I'm not out there preaching about politics or about my faith walk. I'm more open about it now, but you can find that out when you want. You can dig all you want. You can dig about my bankruptcy. You can dig about my divorces, but you can dig about the thousands of people every day that I serve. Choose where do you want to dig? And now with the new book, Denise, we're going to be hitting a lot of new audiences. Guess what? The trolls, the doubts, the critics, they're going to come after me hard. And not that I want to manifest or attract it, but I think we're ready. I have some people that are going to read the book, they're going to hate me more. Sorry, but I'm never going to convince you otherwise. But there will be many people that go, wow, I need to learn more about this guy or this teaching or this book or what other books he's written. So if you're achieving success in any market you're in listening, count on doubters, critics, and haters. You can't have one without the other. And you're also going to have many that are going to be really quiet. They're never going to clap for you. They're never going to like your post. They're never going to comment. You have to know that's not what you should be doing it for. It's who you want to serve or solve a solution to a problem that your gifts and talents bring you to at this marker in time. Planet's got millions of
Exactly.
problems, tons of them. If you can get really the
Absolutely.
passion to solve a problem or problems, the marketplace will see it and the right ones will recognize it and the right ones will stay.
Tony, we are running out of time, and I hate that, and I know you're going to be busy for the rest of the year, but tell me you'll come back at the end of the year when you're through with this tour, and we can talk about it.
We will make time, my friend, because I appreciate you and I know your audience is good. So, yes, that's a yes live and on the air. Let's come back.
Well, you can't tell me no because I asked it on the radio. It would be rude. Listen, before we wrap up, where is the best place for our audience to connect with you online to learn more about your work? Where can they find your website, the books? Tell us where to go.
Real easy. Just go to our main page, mindcapturegroup.com. Three words, mindcapturegroup.com. The new book is only available there. So if you click on a link there, it says new book. That's where you can find it. So we'd love to have you check into our world.
Absolutely. Well, listen, everybody. Today on Your Partner in Success Radio, we talk about what failure teaches us, and that's that success can never be just a singular thing. It's part of who you are. It's part of how you operate. It's part of how you view your life. And Tony shares lessons drawn from more than just 3 decades in business and entrepreneurship, including the setbacks, the mistakes, and the hard resets that shaped his perspective along the way. We explore persistence when motivation runs dry, and how mindset influences recovery and forward movement, and why progress often comes from staying engaged and staying focused rather than giving up when things get uncomfortable. So this conversation is about resilience, honest self-assessment, and learning to keep moving forward, even when the path doesn't look the way you expected it. You can connect with Tony on his website, the Mind Capture Group. It's not it's Mind Capture Group, Tony.
Correct. Three words, mindcapturegroup.com.
Right, as well as on LinkedIn and I believe Instagram. So thank you for joining us this week and get that book. I highly, highly recommend it. Thank you for joining us now and every week. And I am Denise Griffitts, and this is your Partner in Success Radio. Keep moving forward, and I will see you next time. Tony, thank you so much. And keep me posted on your travels.
You're welcome, my friend. Back at you. An honor.
Thank you.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.